really. So I was getting up and I did the things where I took my medication, I had some electrolytes, I took some painkillers. I also took a migraine tablet just in case it could have been a hormonal migraine starting, which happens maybe every like 3 months. So I was like, maybe it's that. But I went to work and I get the Lewis to work, which is the tram in Dublin. If you're not aware, Lewis just means fast. I don't know why we're like this, but anyway. And it's about 25-30 minutes on the Lewis. I'm lucky in the sense that I get on at quite an early stop, so I get on at quite an early stop, so basically usually there's a seat available. A seat is pretty essential for me because on 1,000 levels, but on one level being the sensory experience being on a crowded tram makes me want to not exist. Like it makes my skin crawl. It really impacts the emotional well-being of my day. So when I have a seat that's kind of separate and I can put in my headphones or read or whatever, it feels better. It also can get really stuffy. I also do have low blood pressure. I had been diagnosed with POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia, in 2015. Since my adrenal diagnosis, or Addison's diagnosis, they had told me that potentially that wasn't true POTS. It was actually a side effect of Addison's, but regardless, my blood pressure was still low, so like on the low side, so I was still going to have to continue eating more salt than the average person and kind of managing it. So standing for that length of time also really impacts my joints and my legs because I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which my ankles are exceptionally hypermobile. I'm really, really sore. So it's basically I need a seat. That's long story short. I did get a seat. I was sitting down and probably about 10 minutes into the journey I was thinking I was getting really hot. And it wasn't a hot day, but I was like, God, I'm really disgusting. Like I feel really, really clammy. And my mouth was really, really dry. And I thought, oh my God, okay. And I knew at that point, I do think at that point I knew there was something really wrong. And I was thinking, okay, do I get off at the next Lewis stop and turn around and go home? And then I was thinking, God, I don't know. Maybe what I'll do is I'll stay on, because I couldn't fathom the concept of getting up and walking. Like I really couldn't. Or like standing at all. And at that point then I started to feel exceptionally nauseous. So I thought, okay, I'll stay on till the end, go to the pharmacy because I didn't have any anti-nausea tablets or anything. And I'll get something there in case I have a stomach bug. And then I can see how I'm feeling, have some extra electrolytes, and I'm going to updose and take an extra dose of medication. And give that about half an hour and then see how I was doing. Regardless, to be honest, my biggest priority was about getting off of the Lewis and into the cold air. I was so hot. Like I was sweating, like there was sweat dripping down my face. This wasn't a good look, but anyway. I did that and I went to the pharmacy. At this point it's about 20 minutes before I'm meant to be in work. So I took everything, I went to work. I was lucky on the day I had that I was scheduled, I guess, to be in an office by myself. So I wasn't going to have to sit in kind of the open plan area with everyone and have them see me collapsing. So I kind of just sat there and was like, okay, I won't do anything for the first hour of work. I'll just let this hit. And if it doesn't hit, then I'm going to just go home and figure something out. I started to get so much worse so fast. Like, and this is where it's kind of alarming, is how fast it happened, which I had been told 1,000 times by different doctors, people with Addison's. My best friend Saoirse has Addison's. Like, everyone had said, the one thing you don't understand about an adrenal crisis is how quickly it will come on and how quickly the situation can turn from kind of slightly off to like fatal. So probably within about 20 minutes I went from feeling considerably unwell to not being able to move my legs. And then I noticed this because I tried to make it downstairs to go to the bathroom, and I did, but it took me, the stairs is only about like 6 to 10 steps. It took me so long. I could not move my legs, I couldn't see right, and my vision was blurring, and I needed to vomit. So I made it to the bathroom, I did vomit, and at that point I knew, I was like, okay, this isn't good. I've never felt like this before. I need to do this, do something about this. So I kind of, I think, fell into like my practicality mode in my head, which I enjoyed. That was my baseline, because I think it is my baseline, because I am someone who's very prepped for things. I've always been very prepped for things. I enjoy that about myself. So I made it back upstairs, and we have a lift. Like, why didn't I use the lift? But I think I was so, now I look back and think of things, my logic at the time, and it was my logic and rationale, that brain was moving so slowly. So I made it back upstairs. I pulled my emergency injection out of my bag and my packet of information that I have about Addison's disease and all of that I was told to have with me, that to hand to an ambulance driver or something if I needed it, and that I'd never used. I couldn't even remember what was in it. And I messaged my colleague downstairs and asked if they were free, and asked them to pop upstairs to me, because I was in the only office upstairs. And she came upstairs, and I think I was like, I'm really not doing well. Like, at this point, like, there was like rivers of sweat down my face. So I was really not doing well. And she's just so fantastic. Amy, God bless Amy. I was very lucky, because where I work in college, I work in the in like an area that's exceptionally close to the college health centre. It's like 15 paces across a square. So Amy walked me down there and asked me, she was really fantastic, like she asked me on the way in, she was like, do you want to advocate for yourself? Would you like me to talk to the receptionist and tell them what's wrong? And I said, no, I'll do it. I was like, no, don't worry, I'll do it. And then we got there and I was like, I can't speak. Like, my tongue felt massive, my eyes were so dry, everything was spinning, and I was like, no, actually I need you to speak. The receptionist had obviously never heard of Addison's. Totally understandable. Addison's is rare, and if you've heard of it, you might have heard of it in like really like a passing context. Like, you're not going to think, oh god, that's a deadly situation. But so she was saying that their only appointment was going to be an appointment with the doctor that afternoon. I really needed someone to give me this injection, but the injection, even though I knew technically how to do it, my hands were shaking so much that there was no possible way I was going to be able to construct the injection itself, because it isn't an injection that is like an EpiPen or anything where it's a kind of clear injection straight to the thigh. You have to kind of mix the liquid and things. I couldn't hold my phone or anything, so I needed someone to do it for me. So at that point, when we were standing at the counter, and I was thinking, I will be dead by this afternoon. And I was getting so sick so fast. And my legs were like logs, like moving them was so long and so hard. That I was thinking, okay, I need to get a taxi to the hospital then. If I can't get in here, I need something. But actually I was so lucky, a passing doctor who was walking behind the receptionist heard me say Addison's and came up to the counter and was saying, actually, did you mention Addison's? Like, and she said to the receptionist, she's like, I think if I'm thinking right, that's really serious. I think she should see someone now. Thank God for that doctor. So I did get to see a doctor straight away. I think that doctor was not briefed. She wasn't briefed about why I was coming in or anything. So I just got sent down to her and I turned up looking shooketh. I was like, I'm laughing now, but like genuinely, I'm laughing because I haven't processed the horror of any of this. And I explained to her, I gave her the information. She knew about Addison's, thankfully. And she basically said, she's like, okay? And she was like, right, do you want me to give you this injection now? And I was like, yeah, yep, straight away. Yeah. She gave me the injection straight away. And she took some details from me and then said, okay, I think you need to go to hospital because you need fluids. But I don't think I'm comfortable. Sometimes if they have someone who's maybe come in and broken their arm, like a student, they'll send them in a taxi to the hospital. But she was saying she felt like I needed supervision, so she was calling an ambulance. I knew this was absolutely what I needed, so I was like, yeah, okay, even though in my head I was thinking, God, this is a bit embarrassing, isn't it? I was like, I should just get my crap together more and I could, whatever. I was so beyond logic. I was waiting about 11 minutes for the ambulance because they were rushing, because she had said that I was a coma risk, which is true. All of those things felt very surreal and hypothetical to me, like they were very much like a distant concept that someone was saying. Like she was talking about how this was urgent, and I could hear her on the phone, and I agreed. I was like, yeah, she's giving medically accurate information about an Addison's crisis, but it felt separate to me because that happens to other people, not Jen. I don't know. The ambulance drivers were fantastic. They were so nice. My blood pressure actually remained relatively stable throughout the whole crisis, which I think is a testament to my improved health since diagnosis and kind of managing my diet and stuff. But once we got in the ambulance, I got super nauseous again, and I was like, I'm gonna throw up. So they gave me an injection. They were like, do you want an anti-nausea injection? And at that point they could have said they were going to inject me into my eyeballs, and I would have said, great, do it. Like, I didn't care. But they usually put it in the thigh or like your butt, but I couldn't move my legs at this point. I was on a gurney. I'd had to get a wheelchair to the ambulance. Like, I could not move my legs. I couldn't feel my feet. I didn't know I had feet. So they were asking me to turn over, and I was like, nope, it's not happening really, to be honest. So they were like, I think they were really panicked about the concept of me continuing to throw up, really. So they were like, we're just going to give it to you in your arm. And I was like, cool, do what you want to do. I vaguely remember them asking me which arm I'd had the injection of extra hydrocortisone, and I was like, oh, it's my left arm. So they used my right arm, but the needle is so long. There's a reason it's meant to go into a much bigger muscle. It's been over a month, and my skin on this arm is taut, and the muscle is sore and bruised and horrendous. Like, it was actually so painful, like I screamed. And I would say I have a relatively high pain tolerance, or like a relatively high health suffering tolerance built up over the years. Like, I've had a lot of procedures and stuff done on like my neck and my joints and things like that whilst I've been conscious, and they've been very painful, but this was just so bad. So I kind of almost feel vindicated that it's still sore, because in the moment I was like, am I just so out of it that pain felt so exaggerated? But actually I think it was really painful. I got into the hospital straight away. There was 2 ambulances of emergencies ahead of us, but we all got seen very quickly. I think the other 2 were 2 like elderly people. They moved me from A&E to infectious diseases pretty fast, and at first I was like, okay, cool. And then I realized, I was like, why are you moving me to infectious diseases? Like, I don't think I have an infectious disease. I think I'm having an Addison's crisis. But because I had thrown up, they didn't know if I actually also had a vomiting bug and things like that. So it totally made sense. Infectious diseases was a much calmer part of the A&E and hospital. So I was actually really happy that I moved, to be honest. I saw a doctor immediately. So what occurred over the next few hours was a lot of fluids and me talking about my history of Addison's,